Well, here we are, everybody. Another top 10 list for the end of 2020. And this list is all rounding about the films that are the most underrated films that I felt were in 2020. And respectfully, these are some of my favorite films of the year as well. Now, I did just post a top 10 best films of 2020, and none of those films I decided to put on this list this year. I decided to go a little bit different, make the list completely separate. Now, while I do feel like some of my top 10 are some of the most underrated, I still wanted to do a video just on the most underrated films of 2020. Now, if you're a film fanatic, maybe you've heard about some of these films, maybe you've even seen some of these films, but if you're to the general movie-going audience who just casually watches movies, well, some of these movies might blow you away. So without further ado, let's dive into this list, guys. Make sure to also comment down below and let me know your guys' thoughts. What is the most underrated film you saw this year? Which one should everyone be looking out for? Give me your top 10 list. Let me know what films you saw, and as well as hit that like and subscribe button so we keep talking movies every single day over here on a daily basis. 2021 should be a better year. Fingers crossed. At my number 10 is actually a film that I saw last year, and I actually put on one of my lists last year, but it debuted this year on Netflix, and well, not on Netflix, but PVOD, and now it's on Netflix, and that is Yes God Yes. This was one of my favorite films from the South by Southwest Film Festival last year, and I absolutely adored it. It's one of the best coming of age films about a girl who is in Catholic school and is pretty much learns about masturbation, and it opens up a lot of different doors for people maybe who have ever felt like they're sinning for a certain fact. And I think it's a very charming, funny, and hilariously written film that at the same time feels very relatable, especially because not just because of the writing and directing from Karen Maine, who does a fantastic job, but also because of Natalia Dyer's performance. I think she just does such a fantastic job in this role, and she really just hits that sweet spot for every single person. And yes, I did a ton of sexual puns throughout here, and I did not mean to do them, but so no pun intended. Down at my number 9 is going to be Synchronic, one of the most underrated sci-fi films I saw this year. No one's talking about the movie, and I don't get why. I was utterly fascinated by this because I asked for the screener and I sat down and watched it because I was excited because I do like Jamie Dornan, I do like Anthony Mackie, and it's supposed to be some new time travel film. Okay, like this drug takes him and time travels him. That's just fascinating in its own right. So I turn on the film and I'm like, this is really good. The cinematography is exquisite, but it's also just the concept, the idea, and the themes that really run throughout this film that are some of the most prevalent things. I think Anthony Mackie's performance actually really pushes this film to that next level and that next kind of great depth that the film really wants to explore. The directors and writer in here are super unique, and this is my first film ever seen by them, and I can't wait to see what they do next. But if you're looking for that next cool, unique concept that you haven't seen before when it deals with time travel, then Synchronic is going to be the one for you. Coming down at my number 8, it seems like this one is very much split. A lot of people like it, a lot of people don't like it, a lot of people kind of love it. I'm in the camp that I really like it, and that's Wendy. This is a brand new retelling of Peter Pan's story, and it's very unique to say the least, and I was swept away when I first saw this. I think the score is absolutely magnificent. If you're going to watch this film for anything, and just watch it for that score, but let the film take you on a journey, because while it is a little bit uneven in its storytelling, I think the child performances in here are awesome. The world that they kind of build about in here, the practical effects are amazing. I mean, I was just watching this film in absolute awe, just wondering how they pull off certain elements in here, and there are certain moments throughout this film that will stick with me for quite a while, especially because of the way that they directed and writing. I mean, the directing and writing here are truly the standouts of this whole entire film, besides the score, which that's still one of my favorite scores of the entire year. It is a very unique film, and it's been one of the ones that's surfaced and plays around in my mind. Again, if you didn't like the film, that's totally fine, but if you haven't seen it yet, give it a shot, because it's a unique telling of the Peter Pan story. Coming down at my number 7 is going to be the 40-year-old version, one of the best written films of all year long. Rada Blank, you remember that name. She wrote, directed, and acted in this film and killed it all as this lady who, you know, kind of runs into the middle of her life. She doesn't know what she's doing. You know, she's trying to write scripts, she's trying to do this, she's trying to do that, but then she kind of kind of finds a talent within rapping. And I love this. I love this, you know, it's not a coming of age story, but it's kind of that next life for you as an adult. And, you know, I think for parents, I think as people who are kind of finding that next surface, this is a big film that will speak to you. But again, that writing of how hilarious and actually really how deepful life is, I think the 40-year-old version really hits that. And again, the performance from Rada Blank in here is incredible. The writing and directing are some of the strongest outputs. I really do hope that she gets at least looked at for a script this year for when it comes to the Academy, because I think she at least deserves a nomination in that. Film's on Netflix, and if you haven't seen it yet, you should. Coming down on my number 6 is going to be The Old Guard. Now, I know a lot of people actually saw this on Netflix. The views for this were incredible, but no one's talking about it anymore. And when I talked to some of my friends who really aren't that big into movies, I asked them if they'd seen it, and they all told me no. So I decided to put it on this list because it's my list. I think The Old Guard was an awesome action-packed film that had some great action set pieces. Charlize Theron just kills this role, but one of my favorite things about the film was absolutely the mythology of these undying immune warriors who, truly enough, are immune to everything. You could shoot them, chop them up, everything of that nature, and they'll still come back to life until their time is nigh, and they never know why. I love The Old Guard. I had a blast with this film. I think the twists and the turns were a little maybe predictable, but as a, you know, a graphic novel action film, there's some great action in here and some really exciting set pieces that if you like action movies, you should definitely check this one out. I actually think this one kind of got sidelined because of how great Extraction was. I really enjoyed Extraction as well. I thought that was a great action film too, and probably still the best action film of 2020, but still, The Old Guard deserves some attention. Guys, before you get to my top 5, guys, make sure again to slap that like and subscribe button, as well as comment down below and let me know your guys' thoughts. What is your most underrated film from 2020? Which films should more people be checking out? Did you guys enjoy my list so far? Which film are you going to check out? Let's discuss it all down there. As well, guys, head on over to Samsung Films on how to see films early, and of course, it's a big day to you and a big day to my Patreon supporters, because without you, I won't be able to do this. Down at my number 5 is The Way Back, Ben Affleck's best performance yet. This film came out at a weird time. It came out right as the pandemic was hitting, and it really sucks because this is an excellent movie that everyone should have seen. I truly mean that, because Ben Affleck has always been one of those actors that I think people shit on, but they shouldn't. This guy's a great director, a really good writer, and a really good actor who's really grown over the last couple of years, especially from directing. I think you can totally see the changes, but The Way Back, the way that Gavin O'Connor directs this film, who is also a great director, I think is just very subtle. It's a very subtle movie that plays in its part about a guy who deals with alcoholism, and I think this is very personal to Ben Affleck. This is something that he's dealt with, and you can definitely tell that this comes out in his performance, and some people might be like, well, that just feels like he's playing Ben Affleck, but there's more to it than just that. As this guy who, was this all-star basketball player at one point for high school, he comes back to coach that same team, and there's elements in here that feel like a 90s film, but a 90s drama that really took me back to a storm and a time that I hadn't felt for a while. And I think overall, Gavin O'Connor's directing is a big style of, and big character to this, but it's Ben Affleck's acting here that absolutely blew me away from this film, and it's been one that has surfacely played around in my mind for quite a bit. Coming down on my number 4 is something that launched on Amazon Prime that all of film Twitter talks about, all the film fanatics talk about, but general movie-going audiences, I have not heard talk about this film at all, and any of these films, in fact. Overall, The Small Axe, I think, is some of the most underappreciated and most underrated films from this year. Now, we're not going to get into the discussion if it's a TV movie or an actual film. This year's been weird. But Small Axe is a film series that people should be talking about. Most notably, Lovers Rock, which is my favorite one out of the whole bunch. I loved Lovers Rock. I think this is a unique style that Steve McQueen, the director of 12 Years a Slave and Widows, two amazing films. This guy is a great director, and the fact that he made 5 great films and no one talks about them, what's the point? But Lovers Rock was the first one that I did get to see. I got to see it at the New York Film Festival, and it is all out now on Amazon Prime, so you guys should definitely check every single one of these out. But for me, the thing I noticed about Lovers Rock, and the thing that really blew me away in this scenario, is the fact that it's all a party. Being in a party, you expect it to be, maybe drama, maybe some characters arguing, but it's not. It's truly just a house party of people vibing. There's some drama here and there between certain characters, but the true approach to this was pretty much just living in the moment and living life and vibing with the music. I was in a trance watching this damn thing, and I just couldn't take my eyes off the screen. It made me miss my friends. It made me miss some of my family and just wanting to go out and dance and have fun with everyone around me. And in a time like 2020, this is a great film to kind of bring that remembrance back. And if you want to be in a trance, if you want to feel like you were on a drug, just feeling like you were watching everything just go about and feeling like you were swaying along to the music going about in these scenes, it's truly a one-of-a-kind that only Steve McQueen could pull off, and a lot of that goes because of the cinematography. And God, I can't wait to watch Lovers Rock again. I've seen it 3 times, and I can't wait to see it again. It's just seriously, like, it puts you in a trance, and you just can't keep your eyes off the screen. It's so amazing. Coming down to my number 3 is Devil All the Time, a Netflix film earlier this year that many people talked about, and now it's kind of swept under the rug. And again, for general movie-going audiences, I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this one. Tom Holland, Robert Pattinson, all star in this. Great all-star cast. There's even more to this than you think, but it's a story that very much starts in one place, and the evolution of this family, evolution of this child and his journey are really unique. I didn't know what to expect from this film going in. It's definitely a darker, grislier, and not for everyone type of movie, especially within the first 30 minutes of something that happens that is very gruesome, especially if you're an animal lover. I nearly had to turn away, but it still became one of my favorite films of the year because of the way that it kind of talks about this film, the way that it really shows the deep, dark levels that a lot of different ideologies go about in. And I didn't expect a film like this to really go about in those avenues, but they truly did. And Devil All the Time is one of the most unique films I've seen this year, especially when it comes to a performance standout, because Tom Holland is incredible in this, and I can't wait to see his performance in Cherry. But Robert Pattinson's also great, and so is everyone else. I mean, everyone in this film. Bill Skarsgård's great, Sandra all great, Riley Keogh's great. I mean, the cast just keeps going on and on from there, and I absolutely adored this film in a weird sense of a way. Maybe I'm just a messed up human being, but you guys should definitely check this one out. My number 2, it's funny on this film, because again, for film Twitter, I think a lot of people who are in this space have seen this film or heard about it. And definitely if you haven't, I don't think you have, because I actually expect this film to be a little bit bigger once it finally debuted, and I still don't think it's getting the love that it should, and that's Possessor. Possessor is one of the most unique films I've also seen this year, and a lot of the reason being, it's one of the most incredible sci-fi horror films that I've seen in a while. When I saw it at Sundance, I walked out, it was like 2 in the morning after I'd seen it, like walked out of the midnight screening. I was so pissed. I didn't like it, I was grumpy, and I just felt like I was just gross. It was it was so bloody, it was so nasty, and there was so much to it. Again, this is an NC-17 type film. This is not R-rated. This is a very grisly, gruesome film. But in that moment, you know, the next morning I woke up and I couldn't stop thinking about the film. I told myself I had to see it again. Went and saw it again, and I really liked it that second time. The third time, I fell in love with this film. Possessor is one of the most unique films I've seen in a while. Especially when it comes to sci-fi horror. It's very much body horror, but the concept alone maybe we've heard before, but the ideal of how Cronenberg's son takes us in his own journey, it makes it his own style and stamp. You know this is a Cronenberg film. Definitely feels different than his father's before. I like that because, like father, like son, but with a different style. And the performance from Christopher Abbott in here is next level. I mean, this is a guy who did a great job also on Black Bear earlier this year, which almost nearly made the cut, which will be in my honorable mentions at the end of this video, but he's next level in here, and every single performance in here, in fact, is on that next level. Possessor has multiple moments which have stuck in my head. If you're a fan of horror or sci-fi, then you should definitely check this one out. Just be warned, it's freaking gruesome, but if you can get past that, this will be a really unique film for you to check out, because just like how I said Lovers Rock put you in a trance, Possessor might do the same in some of the most disgusting ways possible. But of course, we're at my number 1, guys, and my number 1 is the Beastie Boys story, a documentary that no one talked about when it dropped on Apple TV earlier this year, and everyone should go check out. It's one of the most heartwarming, loving films that I've seen all year long. It put a giant smile on my face, and you know, I like the Beastie Boys. I'm a fan of them. You know, I grew up with them, with my dad being a giant fan of them, but again, I didn't know their story, and I do, and they're very raw when talking about the people that they screwed over, and I like that, because, you know, we've seen many different things where a band is telling their story, but they don't get down to the nitty-gritty. The Beastie Boys story does, and I really much appreciated that wholeheartedly, because I wanted to see that more depth. I wanted to see these characters, but they're storytellers in their own. Being storytellers, they have a lot to tell, and I very much appreciated their story in here. Spike Jonze directing in here is great. I mean, it really brings this documentary to life in a certain unique way, and of course it is a live documentary, so in the way that they're telling this mannerism is, again, unique, and I ended up just loving the Beastie Boys story in so many different ways. I think Apple actually has a giant charm in here, and they have a lot of good films and shows coming up soon, so if you haven't gone on the Apple TV train yet, you should. Beastie Boys story just rocked my world, and it's easily the most underrated film of 2020 because no one's talking about it. Love the Beastie Boys. If you've never really listened to their music, but you just want a really good story, I mean, this film has everything that you should probably check out. Thank you guys once again for clicking on this video. They're seriously all the best. Let me jump down to my honorable mentions just really fast so you guys don't miss out on any of these. Some other ones I wanted to throw in there real fast was On the Rocks. I think is a great film with Bill Murray and Rashida Jones that no one's talking about. Sylvie's Love is a great romantic story with Tessa Thompson in the front end. Big Time Adolescence is another film with Pete Davidson, who also does a great job with the coming of age story elements in there. Bad Education is an excellent film with Allison Janney and of course Hugh Jackman himself. And even jumping into VFW was a great little throwback to old action films, which also some horror flair in there as well. Sound of Metal is a film that I think is going to go pretty underappreciated, but more people should probably check out. Black Bear, like I mentioned earlier, is Aubrey Plaza's best performance yet. If you're a fan of hers, you should check it out. I'm Your Woman stars Rachel Brosnan in the 70s crime drama. Great, I'll leave it right there. And the last one I wanted to just give a major shout out to is The High Note and the Broken Hearts Gallery. Two, you know, typical, that could have just been typical films, but the heart, the charismatic, and the charisma in both of those really push themselves out, especially within the performances. The High Note has excellent music, and the Broken Hearts Gallery has some great romantic pieces to it. I adored both of those very much so, and I think many of you guys will as well. Thank you guys again so much for clicking on this. You guys are seriously all the best. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know your guys' thoughts down below, and look out for more top 10 lists coming very soon because it is the end of the year, and I got to get ready for 2021. Thank you guys again, and of course, until next time, stay classy.